Okay, thank you for tuning into Stampscaping 101. I did a really simple composition right here based on the scene that I just did in, what was that, 2 lessons ago? I was taking a look at this scene right here, and I was imagining some light beams coming down here, and I kind of wanted to experiment around with that a little bit, and then also introducing the usage of pigment ink in terms of doing kind of a lighter light beam, kind of a diffused light beam emanating from the source of light, in which case it's the moon. And kind of at the, just the spur of the moment, when I was doing the trees, I thought, okay, let's stay within the spirit of the emanating light idea, and let's take the viewer's perspective from, just looking at it straight on, to kind of something more representational of someone kind of lying on their back, maybe, or just standing up and looking up at the night sky through a grove of trees. So anyways, a really different look, using the same imagery, just using them in a different format, and introducing a lot of the same pigment inks, except doing them in, I don't know, kind of extending the usage of them out, not just from placing them on a few pine branches and around the moon to, creating, some additional light beams with them, or whatever, beams of light in the form of pigment ink overlapping our imagery, just using a straight, masked line like that. Okay? So anyways, if you choose to watch this video, I hope you enjoy it. Thanks again for tuning in. Okay, we're going to try this variation. I was looking at this scene that I did in a couple videos ago, and I wanted to try something out. I was looking at it, and I was imagining some more beams kind of emanating from that light source. Inking up this stamp with the Danube Blue Memento, okay, and going back in like I did in that video with my kind of manganese blue, salvia blue pen. It's kind of a mixture. I was mentioning in the other video that this pen went a little bit dry, and they don't have reinkers for pens unless they happen to have the equivalent color in pad form. So I just inked it up with, kind of a similar light blue color rather than just toss my pen out. Okay, now I'm going to have some light beams emanating from this source of light. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and blot off a lot of the ink on the perimeter so that it kind of fades out around the perimeter, okay? And let's see, I tell you what, just for the sake of being a little bit more different than this one's on a horizontal, let's do this one on a vertical, just to change up a little bit. And I'm trying to think, which way do I want to stamp this? Let's go. Yeah, maybe I will do this on a on a horizontal, but let's really move this to the edge. Okay. Because I really want to have long beams of light coming from that light source. Okay, so you have kind of darker in the middle, a little bit of variation in the blue there, lighter blue by putting that streak in there, and it kind of fades off nicely around the edge. Okay, let's try to make this coloring process quick. Let's see. Let's start off with some salvia blue re-inker fluid. Aqua. That's the Aqua Adirondack Lights color. It's a nice thick color and very light in the shadow stamping category of inks, meaning they're really light. Removing my stylus tool tip, and someone asked me how to put these on. They're having troubles just kind of putting that on like that, so I recommend it. You put your stylus tool tip down, just take your stylus wand, snap it right into place, and it's ready to go. Okay. A little bit different on this one. Not so much with this first color, but I'll show you where I adjust my color application, ink application, with kind of going in when I start off with medium tone colors, okay? Getting a good amount of saturation and coverage with this first color. First value of blue. We'll be working it through light, medium, and dark blue. Okay. Instead of working in kind of a horizontal, streaky motion, we're going to have that light emanating, so I'm starting off with my coloring process in that spirit. Okay, so I'm kind of working towards the center, or towards the moon, I guess you can say. If you want the moon to remain nice and light, be careful that you don't ink it out. Okay, we're going for a good amount of coverage and saturation with that first tone, and then let's move into our next color. Why don't we move into Bahama blue. Any medium tone blue will do. Okay. Maybe we'll leave some beams of light going out there, so I just simply will not tone it out, okay? Okay, when I come in here, I have to kind of be careful now that I don't have a streak of color right over the top of my moon. Easy to do, so I'm just kind of work your color right into it. Maybe in this case with shorter strokes in this area right here. I can go with longer strokes over here because I'm far away from my moon. Okay. Alright. I want a little bit of that color right over here. If I add some of that tone right next to the moon, it'll make the moon seem, by contrast, that much lighter. One step darker. In contrast, one step lighter. Okay. Alright. Now, let's see. I'm trying to decide when I want to use this stamp called the Tonal Applicator Rays, okay, because it has these rays coming out like that. I'm going to use it now, okay? Now here's the thing. When I ink this up, I'm just going to ink it about this part of it, okay? Now if I accidentally ink up the tip, all I need to do is take a paper towel and just dry it off. So what I'll do is, what I'm doing is, see this right here, I'm not inking that tip part on there, like that, okay? And it's because when I put this down here, I don't want that rounded edge in there. I just want the rays to kind of emanate from there. I don't want there to be an end. I want it to look like the rays are coming from the moon. Okay. Every time I do this, I'm pointing it towards, hopefully, that one was a little bit off, I'm pointing it towards the moon, though, for the most part. So we get a little bit of texture, kind of in that spirit. It's going to look crazy right now, with so much movement, texture. It looks really busy, but don't worry about that right now, because we're going to be adding in more tone. Okay. Okay, let's wipe off a lot. I got some on the tip there. Now maybe let's only ink up half of it for these areas that are farther away from the moon. Okay. Okay. Looks really crazy. I know that. But all that gets the blending treatment applied to it. So we're going back over. I'm just going back in with my Bahama Blue again and adding in more tone. I can add in some streaks. I can leave some of that white of the beams as is. So it looks like there's some beams kind of emanating out here. So in other words, I'll tone these two areas right here, and I'll just leave that as is. Okay? Okay, I mean, it's still going to be busy, but because I stamped out the Ray, Tonal Applicator Ray in a darker color, but what we will do is we will go into those impressions with the same color as the impressions themselves, which is this. Okay, every time you change inks, do a little test on the corner, see how dark it is. You don't want to put in a little streak like this and there's a big solid line. You want it to kind of taper off as it moves in here so that it's a nice kind of dark to light streak. Okay, press more, lift up. Okay, so if I turn this on its side, what you'd see is this wand going like this, and then I'm coming up like that. See, I'm not going like this and then just raising. What I have is a harsher swipe, and then as I moved up, it's more pendulum like that. Okay, see, that's what gives you that streak like that, where it's dark to light. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, and that's what I'm doing on my page. See, so I never have harsh lines like that where it's, you know, leaving that edge. I don't have these types of looks right here. Okay, because I'm in the darker areas. And because I laid down that initial aqua color, see, I can even do that like that. That doesn't look good, right? But it blends right in. Because the page underneath is, you know, fairly saturated. The Memento inks, too, are very forgiving in terms of them being really thin, or thick inks. You know, it's like the viscosity of them is thick, so it doesn't penetrate, and the nature of the ink is so that it doesn't dry quickly. A lot of inks are designed to dry quickly because you're stamping out impressions in them, and you don't want them to be wet, right? But in this case, we're just going with a basic dye-based ink. They're not quick drying or anything like that. Just your basic plain dye-based ink. Okay, no specialty, special properties kind of assigned to it. All right, that's Memento Danube Blue. We need to go darker. Let's try the Marvy number 3. Things like if you have a denim or something like that, Adirondack, that would be fantastic. The Marvy number 3 blue is a little bit thinner in terms of the viscosity. So what it's doing is it's penetrating the previous inks and getting into the pulp of the paper easier. You know, it's not kind of just floating on the surface of kind of already, you know, kind of damp, you know, damp cardstock like some of the thicker inks would do. So the thicker inks allow for really easy and smooth coverage, but sometimes you run into a little bit of problem if you try to go darker with them, you know, and if the page is already a little bit wet, like I said, the ink just kind of floats, or you'll go like the swipe and it's almost like you've removed ink, you know, because it's just so wet on the card. at that point in time. Okay, I don't like it at the tops too much. It needs to get a little bit darker, I think. I want the viewer's eye to be kind of coming down like this as opposed to going up like that. So that being said, I'm going to make the area around on the top darker. But again, I have to be careful not to go over my moon and darken it. Okay. Let's go in with the black. Let me see if I have a Prussian blue. If I don't, I'll just go in straight with the black. Yeah, here we go. Prussian blues. It's one of the darker blues out there on the market. Yeah, and that looks great. Okay. Kind of takes it one step darker in value, one step darker in value here. By relation, we'll make that same one step lighter. Okay, oops, that's my black there. Okay. Sometimes I get stamping and adding colors, and just in terms of the color scheme, sometimes I never move into one or two colors and think, oh my gosh, I don't like this, you know. It's always, I always give it time, but I do sometimes think that, yeah, something's not, you know, there yet, and it's at some point in time, usually it's like one of the darkest of colors, when I think, okay, everything is starting to come together, and I think that's the case here. Just having this darker perimeter, it's kind of containing the image nicely. So things are kind of framing nicely, and in terms of the containment of the composition, I think that's coming about at this point in time. Sometimes it comes about, you know, in the mid-tones, but hardly ever for me in light tones, and most often of all in the darkest of tone, be it black or whatever. Okay, now this is black. It doesn't look too black over there because there's a lot of blue ink in this pad still, and the page is fairly wet, so when I lay it down, it's just kind of floating on the surface, and then if I wipe it, it's kind of coming off. But again, the Marvy Black is pretty good for that, in that it's penetrating a little bit more. If I went with a thick ink, I don't think we would be getting any of that black value laid down, you know, just because the surface is so wet. You can always let it dry a little bit, you know, and then add in another color, but then if you let it dry too far, then kind of you're risking the blending process to not be as smooth, because you want it to be a little bit wet in order to lay down these streaks, right? Okay, we have that laid down. Like I said, I want to do a variation on this. You can already see there's a different kind of dynamic to that, right? I mean, this one's super kind of tranquil. This one's very loud at this point in time. Let me do something. Yeah, let's go a little bit darker in some of these areas. Okay. Okay, that looks okay. Okay, variation. Let's stick to that, you know, similar composition that we already did. Let's go with our dark trees. In this case, trees that I want to use. I mean, I guess you can use a thinner one or something, but there's a lot of action in that background, and I like going with something nice and bold, you know, to hold up against that. Yeah, let's see, I was thinking, you can always do it where it's like you're looking up, like laying down on your back and looking up through the trees at this. I'm thinking if I want to, wondering if I want to do it. Let's lay some trees down first, and then I'll decide on the the composition later. You know, just how much of this tree do we want to use? I'm kind of leaning towards, yeah, let's do this. Okay, keeping in the spirit and direction of a given ray, wherever it is, that's the direction I'm going to put the tree. So, you know, we have a lot of kind of a perspective in this, you know, in terms of near and far, you know, when you introduce this degree of, I don't know, angle, skewing of the angles, okay. So even though this design, I mean, it's like you're looking at it straight on, you know, when we talk about the varying of imagery, it doesn't go off into perspective very much. You know, it wasn't the way this design was conceived, but yeah, it works fine for that purpose right here, you know. Okay. I guess when you kind of do it, you know, with this angle and perspective here, it's almost like you're really, really kind of pushing the application of that design. Okay, let's go pointing straight at that moon. Okay. I think one or two more here. Now I'm just using a tiny tip of it, like that, little half-inch or so. Okay. Let's try to overlap some of these trees. Okay. A little cluster of it. Okay. That really pushes and reinforces kind of the direction of those beams like that by having the shapes reiterating the angle of beam like that. Now, let's see, I think just like the other card that I did, I might have to wait for this to dry a touch. It's fairly dry up here, but it's back down here where black has overlapped, I don't know, tons of layers of blue ink down there. It's stamping wet into wet, so that takes a little bit to dry. But anyways, that's kind of the foundation, and we'll wait for this to set up a little bit for the kind of the fun to begin in terms of the light rays and what we'll try here. So anyways, back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. I think these trees are sufficiently dried for some additional applications of value and texture. Okay. Now, at this point in time, I can, if I want to, even though I've already stamped these trees in here, if you decide, hey, I should have used a little bit more color, you know, one value or another, you can always lay it in right over the top of the trees, okay? If you've allowed them to dry, it shouldn't smear. But I don't feel that it really needs any more ink at this point in time. So I'm going to go in and start adding some of these special effects, or applications, not really special effects, but let's go do the same thing that we did before, and then we'll do, we'll have some variations on the pigment ink application. Okay, this is looking really thick right now, so I want a little bit less ink, so I've tapped it off a little bit more so I can just get a very light, kind of a dry brushed application of this ink. Okay, it's very dry on the tip. Alright, not so dry that, nothing is, coming off the tip, but it's just a very light application. Let me see if you can even see it here. See that right there, where it's darker and then it goes lighter? That's about what's on the tip right now, okay? It's really, really dry. If I want to have a little bit more variation, I can kind of add a little bit more. We can make this moon kind of glow a little bit more. Okay, so I've extended that that ring of pigment ink, which represents kind of a ring of diffused light out. And I'll try to make the area right next to the moon where it encounters the perimeter darkness a little bit lighter, okay? So we have very light and kind of diffused, okay? I don't want it just a big solid bar of white, okay, with this pigment ink. I want it to kind of fade out. Okay, where cloud encounters that darkness, okay? Let's put some pigment ink around that, and we'll make it look like some of that vapor of the cloud is being illuminated by the light. It's giving it a softer edge. Textures are real important to me. Kind of a kinesthetic person. So when I stamp these things, while it's visual, it's kind of about textures. Okay, I like this illumination of the cloud down here. Oops, I am sorry. Here we go. Illumination of the cloud. Here. Here's another cloud over here, right next to the source of light. Let's really lighten that up. Apply some tone right around that section. This is not a fast drying pigment ink. It's very, very slow drying. Okay, so it gives me plenty of time to make my mark and to adjust. I think right here I want to make that edge of that cloud softer and illuminated. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going in with my pigment ink, and where light meets dark, it's now kind of light meets, I don't know, kind of medium blue or something like that rather than the dark blue. Okay, let's play a little bit more down in this area. Let's diffuse some of these rays. Now, I have these rays coming out, and we're going to do a little experiment here with that. As far as my applicator goes, I was trying to decide on what I would use. Maybe I'll start off with this cotton swab. And let's go down and let's start right here. Let's kind of create this. I'm going along with the direction of this light beam right here. Okay. And let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to use a paper towel. Let me see, I got to use the right side. This is the part that got ripped, and here's these little tears there, so I'm going to go with a straight edge here. Rarely go with straight edges, but in anything that I'm doing stamping wise, so we'll see how it goes. Let's see, I'm trying to think of which way I want to do this. Okay, let's come into it like that. Okay, let's lay down some inks. What I'm doing is I'm just doing a little bit of masking so I can kind of create this straight ray here, and we'll have it coming across some of these trees. So again, we're just doing some finishing touches, but we're doing it in the spirit of what we've stamped in the form of the Tonal Applicator Ray stamp, and then we've gone into that area with our color box, our inks. So we've created streaks using the stylus tools. Okay, here's this ray kind of coming out right there, and it looks kind of weird because it's the only one, right? So let's kind of create some more. Let's have those rays. I should always kind of lay this down right in the center of that moon so that kind of the direction and perspective of these rays are consistent. Okay. I don't think I want this too stark. Okay, I want it kind of diffused. Okay, in other words, I don't want this pigment ink to be too light. I think it would look a little bit too forced if I did that, okay? So here we have coming across that. Let's pull it a little bit. Okay. Alright, let's try it down here. Okay. There's my center of my moon. I'm putting this tip right on the center. How about on that tree tip, kind of on the top sides of some of these tree branches, I'll put that soft kind of touch, okay? And we'll diffuse the image a little bit, soften it, and give it some lighting, okay? So right here. I think this is screaming for some of this pigment ink there, isn't it? Let's lay some of that down and see how it goes, okay? Lining it up, point right there, and we'll come in. Why don't we come into it about like so? And maybe open it up a little bit more, actually. Okay, let's give that a try. I have too much ink on there. It's starting to give me a little bit of a texture that I don't want. No problem, the ink is not dry. Let me flip this around to the dry side to kind of spread that out a little bit. Okay. Let's hit it more in the center of that light ray. Okay, let's take it all the way back up to the moon. Okay, we have that. Try a little bit more. Let's stay consistent, okay? Around on some of these tree branches, let's add that soft light on the top surfaces that are facing the light, reinforcing the idea of the light direction within the scene. with the amount of ink that I'm using on these trees, I really don't need to re-ink this. Okay, because again, we want it kind of applied in a very dry brushing kind of method and rate. You know, it goes on very slowly. Okay, let's see what this is looking like now. How about those trees right there? See that? You look at it. Okay. Maybe a little bit more ink on that one. Okay, let's do a little bit more of this pigment ink in here with kind of directional pigment ink, I guess you can say, with the mask. Okay. I think it's missing one over on this side too. Let's go in between these trees like that. Okay. Every time I do it, I'm thinking, okay, that's probably the last beam, but then I do that one, and it seems like, it kind of puts the composition out of balance, where I have to kind of balance it off now. You know, that one was kind of low, and I think it needs another one kind of going high here, like that. Okay. How about this one right here? Let's have it here, and I won't take this all the way to the edge of the paper, but maybe just have it coming down here a little bit. Okay. Does that look crazy enough? I don't have like dark ink on this. I think this thing's covered with pigment ink. Okay, we have our soft direction of light here. Let's see which one of my gel pens are working. Let's go in here now with some gel pen directional highlights. Okay, just check this out. I'm adding more in the lighter areas, and then as I move out, okay, now imagine this is in a line going to that same spot. Okay, maybe some of these dots out here get larger by way of perspective as well. Okay, so you have larger, smaller, where it looks like maybe these ones are getting closer to you. Okay, and okay. Maybe I would just be served well, you know, to actually use this paper towel as kind of a guide, at least. Let's try that. Okay. Sometimes you take a camera and kind of you point it at, you know, some light source, and you get these kind of lens flares. I think actually look pretty good, you know, in photography. I really enjoy the lens flare look. Okay, kind of dots emanating, moving out. Highlights on my bows, branches. What it's doing is it's representing light, just like there are light beams in the sky here. Now you're taking this and you're taking that same texture and applying it to the imagery, which should bring continuity between kind of that lighting statement, I guess you can say, and bringing that same vehicle, which is a white dot, into the imagery, and that brings a little bit more continuity to the scene, and the dots make kind of sense that way by you utilizing them as highlights on objects rather than just having them kind of as representing kind of little beams of light. So sometimes when you're starting to use this white pen, you know, you might put a few dots down and it's like, oh, that looks kind of weird, you know. But if you kind of put it in more areas, sometimes it makes sense. Just don't, you know, always kind of hold it out at arm's distance and kind of make an assessment of how things are looking rather than to just concentrate fully on them, apply 1,000 of them or something like that and hold it up, and it's, you know, it's almost too much texturing. Okay, now where these light rays are kind of coming across some of these areas, maybe on those areas, like I have that beam of light coming down here, maybe on those trees that it, you know, parts of the tree that it overlapped, I'll put more highlights because of what I'm saying is those, you know, those beams of light are kind of shining on that area, kind of, you know. They call these, I think these are still called crepuscular rays, even if they're from the moon. I could be mistaken, but anyways. Okay. Okay, now I have done these kind of beams of light coming out, emanating from the center. Now, at some point in time, I don't want to go so formulaic, okay, staying on a line and kind of coming out like that. Sometimes I take a look at this and I think, okay, where can we use some texture? Now I've already kind of established the fact that some of these rays of light can have that larger ball here. What I'm seeing is a lot of similar shape and texture in here, so in the form of that, especially in the form of that little white dot. So I'm just going to add in some additional larger ones, I just think, for variation's sake, I guess. Visual variation. Okay, I'm going to put a few highlights on some of these clouds here, but let's put some different sized, maybe oval. Kind of everything's stretching out this way, so maybe I'll make kind of an oval. I don't know. point of light or whatever. Anyway, I could do this forever. I really enjoy doing these little embellishments to a scene, kind of bringing it together. I think that's probably enough, unless I can find my silver pen. Maybe I'll take a look and see if I can find it, and I'll add that into the composition. But anyways, quite a difference in terms of spirit, okay? By doing very similar compositions, definitely, well, I don't know if I would say similar compositions, is certainly, you know, the same type of composition, but maybe the spirit, I don't know, maybe the spirit is completely different. Here you have the trees. I mean, it's more kind of uniform, it's bottom weighted, it's balanced, and something like this, you know, there's much more movement to it, you know, it's very dramatic. So, and also, you know, incorporating the tonal applicator rays, but even if you just kind of streaked in this kind of emanating direction, you know, light emanating from there, you can really change the spirit of everything. So talk about, you know, kind of a variation in stamp usage. Just by changing the angle of it, you really changed the viewer's perspective altogether in the scene. So quite similar, yet quite different. So as in with anything Stampscapes-wise, as a designer of these stamps as well, what I want to do is I want to, for my own sake as a stamper as well, I want to get, you know, the most amount of, I don't know, the maximum possibilities as far as usage goes from the stamps, okay? Sometimes using it very small, sometimes using it very large. I didn't use the entirety of the stamp in any of these impressions here, so a really different look to you know, the same images, the same stamps. Okay, extend the usage of your stamps around just by taking a look at them and kind of figuring out, okay, what other ways are there that I can use this. And this is all going with the same color scheme too. I mean, I can do these trees like this in kind of a, with the sun up there. You can even use that as the sun, but maybe you would stamp it out in, you know, deep browns or reds or something like that, and all these colors would be yellows, oranges, and reds instead of light blue, medium blue, darker blue. And you could really change the look of this completely, you know, if you did a change of, you know, the temperature scheme. Okay, anyways, thanks again for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.